So, I watched season 4 of Umbrella Academy, and honestly, I still don't know what's going on. Hello! Hi, my name is Boomy. I am a content creator, I make music, I sometimes write, and I like watching a lot of movies and TV. I don't know what the writers were on. I don't know. And honestly, I've been looking at several different comments and several different videos, and I've been seeing the same kind of outrage that I have. Because no one saw this coming. I just don't understand. I just don't get it. I don't. Episodes 5 and 6, not on my bingo card. I didn't like those episodes. And this was the final season, so we'll all just have to live with it. And within all of that, what I'm here to talk about today is the Lila and 5 storyline. Because really, what was that? I wouldn't have seen that relationship from a mile away, and I thought that they would just stay friends. Like, I liked the enemies to friends thing they got going on, you know? So the question is, what were the writers thinking? I feel like this was rushed. It was definitely rushed, but I also feel like they just wanted to try something weird and then see if they could get away with it on screen. Is that wrong to say? I don't know.
How did it come about? Was it sort of the genesis of your idea? Did the actors sort of speak to wanting that time together?
No, it wasn't the actors, it was really the writers in the room. We had talked about it. We thought they're actually much more similar. Lila and 5 are so much more similar than they want to give each other credit for. They're constantly fighting and bickering, but they're the most alike. So the idea of spending 7 years together made sense that something would have happened. He's also not a 12-year-old, he's a 56-year-old man, you know, and Aiden in real life was already now 19 or 20, and it seemed like it was worth trying, and I was there that day. I thought it paid off. The fans are gonna have a lot of different opinions about it, but I really think it's sweet.
I just don't like it, and can we take it back? Can we redo this one? Also, when explaining the storyline, I'm just gonna talk about this storyline and not really the episode in itself, so yeah. Anyway, let's get into the episode. The episode is called 6 Years, 5 Months, and 2 Days. The episode starts with a montage of Lila and 5 taking trips down the secret subway. In the previous episode, if you remember, Lila comes up with a plan to see if they could go years back in time to their original timeline to keep Ben and Jennifer apart so they can save the timelines and then save the world. First, they searched for a year. Then that turned into 2, 3, 4, 5, then 6 years. Within that time, 5 and Lila would get bored, argue, scrape for food, become delirious, and ultimately get lonely. You could also see them getting along better than usual. I just thought they were being good siblings-in-law, but I guess not. You got 5 over here taking broken glass out of Lila's foot, which is a good thing, but then they tried to equate that to Lila helping shave 5's beard like he's ever grown facial hair in his life. One is more life-threatening and not romantic, but if that's what they want us to think, then I guess. They start growing closer together, and in year 6, it shows that they have been to many different timelines and were not able to find what they needed to find. You see them sleeping next to each other with 5's hand on Lila's shoulder, and you can see him barely awake, watching over her. Then the title card appears. After that, 5 and Lila are finally tired of living the secret subway life, eating rats and other rodents, which makes sense. 5 tells Lila that they've been here for 6 years, 5 months, and 2 days, and Lila responds saying that they'll find a way home soon. So the audience is guessing that they've given up their plan to see if they can go back in time to their original timeline to keep Ben and Jennifer apart. 5 remembers a timeline where there was a pleasant enough greenhouse they might be able to settle in, and convinces Lila that they should stay there so they can take a break, being that it's almost been 7 years in their search, and that this doesn't mean they're giving up yet. In the greenhouse, 5 sees Lila picking strawberries and starts to garden. Lila is trying to be funny and throws some at him. As she goes near him, she slips on one and falls into 5's arms. They stare into each other's eyes and kiss. Why? After that awkwardness, she tells 5 not to be weird, and he asks, "Was that weird?" And Lila says no, which is what makes it weird. And then they kiss again, but this time make out. But why? twice? While settling in the greenhouse, Five and Lila have become a couple. Lila is fixing an old record player, while Five is bringing in rat food. Five gives Lila a metal scrap bracelet that he made, and they kiss again. Why do you keep torturing us? Oh my gosh. They kiss like 3 times. Like, what? It's like you guys wanted us to see it, like really keep seeing that. Anyway. Five puts her bracelet on her wrist and goes to find more scrap metal. Lila looks super happy. When Five goes to look for more scrap metal, he finds a book left by another version of him, and it's of ways to get out of the secret subway and finally back home. He hides it in his jacket when Lila finds him. Later, Lila gives Five a present and it's instant coffee that she found. But then Five tells her that there is something he should tell her, and he gives her the book on how to get back home. She asks how long he's had it, and he tells her 5 months. She asks why he didn't tell her, but then he answers, "You know why." Honestly, when he said that, I was like, five villain era? Like where are we going with this? Like, is he crazy? Anyway, Lila immediately gets up to leave and Five asks her where she's going. She says she's going home, and Five is trying to convince her that they are way better off together and that she doesn't want to go back to another broken apocalypse, another broken timeline, or her broken marriage with Diego in the life that she lived before. He tells her that he's been with her for the last 7 years, watching her back when she was sick and holding her when she was sad. I'm telling you, Five villain era. This would have been crazy. He tries to tell her that she's happy here, and honestly, Lila just wants to see her kids again. She tells him that none of this is real and that this isn't love, but survival. She packs her things and tells him that he could stay if he wants, but that she's leaving. Honestly, this was such a chaotic episode for them in such a short time. It was crazy, but it also just felt unnecessary. I didn't like it because I felt like the romance just came out of nowhere for us. Like, enemies to friends to lovers is wild in this context. I mean, he killed her parents. Like, also, Diego is a person that both Lila and Five care about, but instead the show throws away caring about Diego like he's just a stranger to both of them. It's like they've never had a sense of feeling bad or guilty at all. Like, yes, it's been 7 years, but you got children and the father of your children at home. It feels like the writers just said, let's create a storyline that doesn't focus too much on the main storyline at all. Let's make Lila and Five be in a romantic relationship that forces Diego to finally see that Lila is hurting. It was just rushed, and that threw me left. So those are my thoughts, but now here are the many different scenarios that I think this storyline could have became or should have become. Yeah. Idea 1. Right after Five and Lila settle in the greenhouse for a short time, they'd be creating a map of how to get home and cross out the places they've been to. Lila may be freaking out on how to get back to her children, and maybe Five can hold her in a way where he is assuring her that everything would be fine, but in a platonic and not falling in love kind of way. They sit on the floor next to each other and they talk about missing their family. He apologizes to her about their past. She forgives him because she finally has her parents back and gained a new family as well. Five talks about feeling way more sane that he has a family he can see and talk to, reflecting on the time that he was left with no one during the apocalypse and that he's no longer lonely. And Five says for the past 7 years he's happy that he's left with somebody that he knows and someone that he's learned to love, but in a platonic and not falling in love way. Lila also talks about even missing Diego's nagging and her kids, and maybe never seeing them again. Then all of a sudden, they come up with a plan they've never thought of before on how to get back home. And maybe later in episode 6, Diego realizes he never saw Lila the way she needed to be seen, and becomes a better partner. And Lila realizes that she does love him, they just have to work on their relationship. See, that's how I would have had it. I would have had it that way. It just feels smoother, it feels good, it just gets everything out the way since, you know, they already kind of built something up with it. Yeah, I mean, still, I feel like the whole scene wasn't necessary to even just have them traveling through time and everything like that. But because they did it, let's say I just changed it up a little bit, and I really like what I wrote. Idea 2. Oh, Idea 2. Let's say, all of that in idea 1 kind of happened, but what if the dynamic was just 5 falling in love with Lila and Lila not being able to reciprocate those feelings because she's not into 5 like that? Yeah, they've been together for 7 years, but she still knows that that's her sibling, basically. I mean, siblings-in-law, brother-in-law. 5 has been alone before, but finally being alone but with a real person would stir up different emotions. It could have been a storyline of 5 having feelings for Lila, but those feelings he's going to have to shut down because although he has fallen in love with Lila, he still loves his brother Diego. And I think that would have been interesting to see because the last person 5 has fallen in love with is a mannequin. No disrespect to Dolores, favorite character, but she's not a real human. And he's been alone before and it went terrible. Idea 3. Let's say we did go with the whole Lila and 5 storyline, they're together. I can't. It's just hard for me to believe that they just... Anyway, let's say we went with it. Why couldn't the storyline be that 5 is going through psychological damage because he's 100 years old? I think he's 70, but he's 100 years old. Like I said earlier, 5 has been alone before, so being alone but being with a person this time, it's going to stir up a lot of emotions. But this time, he's kind of losing it. But he thinks of Lila, wait for it, as Dolores. I know, it's crazy. I just realized that my glasses were slanted. Oh my god, kind of. And if we went with this storyline, we could have had scenes of 5 drifting off and having flashbacks of him being alone. So when he starts interrogating Lila and trying to convince her to be with him, he mistakenly calls her Dolores. And the audience would be like, oh my god, he actually doesn't love her. He's just lonely and sad and confused. So then Lila leaves first and she's over it because she needs to see her kids. But as soon as he realizes that he called her Dolores, he now knows that he needs help. He needs to get out of there. I feel like that would have made a lot of sense for 5 because he tells her that he's been with her for the past 7 years, watching her when she was sick and when she was sad. But the whole time, it was just him reliving the first season. That would have been terrible. Maybe that's not a good idea, but I don't know. And those are my ideas. I honestly don't know what the writers were on this season. I would have loved it if they handled the story well and just focused on growing the characters this season instead of putting them in weird scenarios. I also get that the season only had 6 episodes, so they were rushing as much as they could, but I wish that all that time that they used on these confusing storylines, example 5 and Lila's arc, on something more valuable. But the series is already done, and although it wasn't the greatest thing ever, I still congratulate everyone who's worked on it because I understand that TV shows are very tough to make. So despite everything I said to all of you, thank you. And also, with shows like this, I'm able to create commentary like this. I'm happy that at least there was an ending, because even though it wasn't the greatest ending, it was an ending, so we can put it to bed and we could think about other things now. This is the end of the video. If you like this video, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Follow me on Instagram. I also make music. And comment below your thoughts about how Lila and 5 storyline maybe should have gone, or just Umbrella Academy stuff as a whole. That's it for now. I'll see you in the next one. Bye. I didn't get to introduce my child. His name's Cornelius. I think that's what was his name in the box that I got him in. But this is him. This is my child.